to order. We have three cases this evening. First case we will deal with is case 1409. I'll read the legal notice. Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing in the Selectmen's Meeting Room at the Town Hall on 16 Lowell Street on Thursday, June 19th at 7 p.m. on the petition of Dr. Fred Ravens, who seeks a special permit under sections 633 and 6332 of the zoning bylaws in order to add a one-story addition to the existing non-conforming structure for use as a dental office, as per plans submitted on the property located at 198 to 202 Ash Street in Reading. Unless there's an objection, I will dispense with the reading of the abutters list, other than to say the abutters have been notified, as were the Board of Selectmen, Town Clerk, Police Department, Fire Department, Conservation Commission, Building Department, Health Department, Assessor's Office, Engineering Division, CPDC, the Zoning Board of Appeals, its members and associate members, as well as the planning boards of Wakefield, Linfield, North Reading, Stoneham, Woburn, and Wilmington. If there's anyone here this evening present who wishes to speak, would you please stand and raise your right hand? I swear the testimony given by me before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The answer is I do. Thank you. I assume you're speaking for the petitioner?
That is correct.
Identify yourself, and then we'll hear what you have to say.
Sounds good. I'm Nancy Toomey. I am the architect for the project, and we're here because the structure on the property is non-conforming, and because it's a commercial project or commercial land, we need to have a special permit to do any addition to it. The new addition, which will be off the side, I don't know if you want to look at yours, but I did put this up. The new addition off the side conforms in every way to the zoning bylaws. The difficulty we have is that the existing two-story structure is non-conforming at the rear, and that puts us into this position. Just a little bit of history. Dr. Ravens came before you in 2009, and we sought a special permit and a variance at that point in time, which we did get. The special permit was to put a second floor over an existing rear stairway for egress on the second floor, and the variance was a new accessible ramp off the front. Those projects were completed and are in function. So his practice has been quite successful. He's welcoming in one more dentist. So he is looking to expand the first floor, to add 2 more operatories, and to expand a little bit some of the staff rooms and offices. We did go before CPDC several weeks ago and were granted the go-ahead on the site plan review. There were 2 pieces of property originally. They have been combined, and the second piece of property to the right of the main structure, it's 202 Ash Street, used to have a house on it. That was pulled down several years ago. You might have remembered that on some of the news reports. The builder pulled the house down and money flew out of the house. Whoever lived there before had decided to put it in the walls instead of put it in the bank. So at any rate, so yeah, it was an interesting piece of history to the property. But at any rate, we are here to ask for a special permit, and the new structure does conform. So appreciate your consideration.
Okay. Len, I think you denied the permit on the basis that we need to determine whether it is an addition that changes the non-conforming nature,
Right,
or creates a new one and is not more detrimental.
Right, the existing structure, I think, is non-conforming with respect to
Yes.
the rear yard setback.
Right,
So any expansion or operation of that requires a special permit.
right. Your position on this is what?
No, I have no problem with the application.
Okay.
It's kind of boilerplate, they need a special permit, because if it conformed, they wouldn't be here.
Right.
But the proposed addition does conform.
Okay. David, comment?
No, it seems like a pretty straightforward application for a special permit based upon the existing nonconformity. Anything done to the building, because it is non-conforming, needs to come before us as a special permit. The plans in the petitioner allow that the setbacks are still met and there's no additional nonconformity. Did I hear you correctly that the two parcels have been combined, that this is now one
They have,
parcel?
yes, we went before CPDC, before the hearing, and on a, was it, non-approval, whatever it is, we got that.
A&R?
A&R, there you go, I'm sorry. We were able to get them combined, and that has been actually, filed. Brad Latham worked on that aspect of it, it has been filed.
All right. Other than that, I have nothing.
Kathleen?
I have no questions.
John?
I just went back and looked at the table on 5.1.2. And Glenn, maybe you can help me out. The difference between in a Business A district, an A40 in a Business A district. Because there's two different sets of standards for setback requirements.
We're looking at what, 512?
Yeah. On the bottom of the page, under other permitted principal uses, it doesn't say business A 40, business A 80. I don't know what A 40 and A 80 is.
A40 and A80 is an apartment district,
Oh, that's the apartment.
and I
Okay.
believe the 40 stands for 40,000 square feet required for apartments, and the A80 would be 80,000,
Okay,
okay? And we're not in that district, right?
right.
Right.
We're in business A.
Correct.
And business A, rear setback is 20 feet. And that's where the
Correct.
nonconformity comes.
Yes.
Both the rear on two sides of the building. Or two corners, I should say. of the building.
One is 11, I think.
Just
Yeah,
on-
one is a-
13.9 and one's 11.3.
One 11.3 and the other one is 13.9,
That's correct. The new addition is 25.6,
which is well within that.
well within, yes.
I really have no comment. It appears to me the new addition meets all our setback criteria and doesn't increase or create any new nonconformities. And number two, I don't believe it's gonna be, the new addition would be any more detrimental to the neighborhood than what's there now. And in fact, I think it may improve things a little bit there. Abutters you got to the rear where the nonconformity is the rear road.
Rear road.
So I don't think that's a big issue to an abutter or anything like that. So I have no issues with the application.
Comment, Eric?
None?
Okay. Well, I kind of agree with everyone else. I think this is quite straightforward, one of the most straightforward ones I think I've seen come before this board. I don't have any objection to it either, so I'll entertain a motion. Well,
Can I-
take it back, go ahead.
Can I just ask a question? You said that you've been through, you were to CPDC for site plan review.
That's correct. We had site plan review and an A&R just before that approved the two parcels combining, and then we had a CPDC. It's approved based upon the findings here. That was one of the conditions.
Not the A&R, the A&R is
No,
gone
the
through.
A&R is done, and it has been filed, correct. It was the finding by CPDC for the site plan review. We had numerous, because we're changing parking, putting in drainage, doing quite a lot of improvements to that site. They had some things to say, and
Okay.
one of the conditions was that we were successful through before the zoning.
And parking is not an issue, right?
Not an issue, no.
Okay.
The only condition, Nancy, was ZBA approval of the special
ZBA
permit.
approval, and then there was one change, the driveway to the existing lot, was put here because we needed to stay 125 feet away, but, George Zamboros has asked that we move it down, and he feels we don't need to go before the selectmen, he can make that determination. So that's the only other piece that we have to have adjusted, but, we'll work with that once.
Okay.
Before I entertain a motion, I'll open it up for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on this case? Then I'll close the public portion of this. I will, if there's no further comment from the board, I will entertain a motion. Kathy?
Sure. Make a motion to, I move to approve the petition of Dr. Fred Ravens for a special permit under section 6.3.3 and 6.3.3.2 of the zoning bylaws in order to add a one-story addition to the existing non-conforming structure on the property located at 198 to 202 Ash Street in Reading, Massachusetts, for use as a dental office. And as referenced in the site plan prepared by Sullivan Engineering Group, 22 Mount Vernon Road, Boxford, Mass., and stamped by John Sullivan, professional engineer. And it looks like it's dated May 1st, 2014. And there was also, should we reference the, some architectural
Yeah, I
plans
would
that were
reference those,
submitted?
yeah.
Prepared by Toomey Design, 23 California Road, Reading, Mass., 1867. And it looks like they're dated May 1st, 2014, and it looks like pages 1 through 6. And I think we also do the usual conditions. The special permit is conditioned upon the following, that the petitioner shall submit to the building inspector a certified plot plan of the proposed construction and proposed foundation plans prior to the issuance of a foundation permit for any work. The petitioner's final construction plans for the new structure shall be submitted to the building inspector along with the as-built foundation plans prior to the issuance of the building permit. And finally, the as-built plans showing the completed construction shall be submitted to the building inspector immediately after the work is completed and prior to the issuance of an occupancy permit.
I also noticed that on the site plan, it refers to it as sheet 3 of 4.
Oh, it does, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's the main
Huh?
site plan. Yes, that's correct. The other are details for the drainage.
Okay.
Did you want a
So-
copy of those? I can.
No, I think you just want to pick up,
I think it's
just to be total.
Just that it's
complete.
sheet 3 of
Pick
4.
up sheet 3.
Yeah, 3, 4. Okay.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
John seconds it. All in favor? Let's see, all the voting members will be everyone except Eric. All in favor? 500, it passes. If you'll wait a minute, I'll stamp the drawings.
Thank you very much. I
You're welcome.
appreciate it.
Whoops. All right, the next case before us this evening is case 14-10. Again, I'll read the legal notice. Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing in the Selectmen's Meeting Room at the Town Hall on Lowell Street in Reading on Thursday, June 19th at 7 p.m. on the petition of Michael and Tammy Tyne, who seek a special permit under sections 4328 of the zoning bylaws in order to continue the use of an accessory apartment in an existing single-family dwelling on the property located at 337 Ash Street in Reading. Again, unless there's an objection, I will dispense with the reading of the abutters list other than to say they were notified, as was the Board of Selectmen, Town Clerk, Police Department, Fire Department, Building Department, Conservation Commission, Health Department, Assessor's Office, Engineering Division, CPDC, and members and associate members of the Board of Appeals, as well as the planning boards of Wakefield, Linfield, North Reading, Stoneham, Woburn, and Willington. Again, testimony given before this board is taken under oath, so anyone who wishes to speak on this case, please stand, raise your right hand. I swear the testimony given by me before this board is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The answer is I do. Thank you. Are you going to present your case?
Yeah.
And identify yourself, and
Mike
the floor is
Tyner.
yours.
This is my wife Tammy Tyner.
Okay.
We reside in 337 Ash Street. I've grown up there pretty much all my whole life. My family owned the house prior to me and my wife purchasing the home. Just give you a little history on the property. My grandparents lived next door. Me and my father lived on the other side with my mom, and then we ended up purchasing the home. My father passed away. My grandfather moved to Florida. Me and my wife purchased the home with my children, and continued to use. Figuring we thought it was legal. That's why we're here tonight, to comply with. We thought it was a legal apartment, and then when I spoke with Glenn, he told us that it's not an accessory apartment because we're non-compliant. We didn't have a special permit, and we didn't know. It was in good faith to purchase the property, you know. So that's why we're here this evening, is to continue the use of the accessory apartment, which is, we're not gonna change, you know, the structure or any. The structure's staying the same. It's got 2 means of egress, in and out. And, you know, the house is just gonna stay the same. The footprint's staying the same. It's not gonna, the parking's all the same. Got a 70-foot backyard, back parking spot, and off-street parking right off the street. That's pretty much it.
Okay. I'll start with you, Eric, this time.
All right. Well, we run into this problem, you know, sometimes where people think that they have a legal place that, you know, that they can have as an accessory apartment, but, you know, the paperwork is incorrect. And so, the first place that we go to, and you'll see there in the plan, I'm sorry, in the denial letter, is, you know, you need to comply with section 4.3.2.8.2, lays out all the things that you need to have happen. You know, it seems that the first one's you've met, you know, it's been occupied forever, you know, maybe not forever, since it was built, looks like in 1950. So that's fine. I guess the first question that comes to my mind is prong B, which is that it can't occupy more than 1/3 of the gross area. I see in the calculations that you're including the finished basement in that. I don't know if that counts or not, and I think that we run into a little bit of trouble if we don't count that, because without that, I come with a maximum square footage of roughly 594 square feet. So I guess my first question, I don't know if we know the answer, is if that finished basement can be counted in that gross living calculation.
Well, I think that the verbiage in the paragraph says exclusive of unfinished
Right.
basement.
So does that, you know, I guess by extension
So
would
by
include
extension,
finished.
I could draw the conclusion that furnished, just the opposite.
Yeah.
Well, you know, in the past, when this was created, board members went into the potential sites of accessory apartments and did the calculations along with the building inspector. And now, actually, when the application is made for that, the board doesn't go in. We just have the building inspector do that, and he usually goes in and verifies that all the requirements have been met for 4328. And it's difficult. I know that on the letters that were issued for compliance to the applicant by the building inspector, he asked for that because of, or actually access to the dwelling so that he could check on code specifications, along with the rest of the calculations that Eric is talking about, which are so important in finding for an accessory apartment. And I think if Glenn has been in there, one of the things we ought to find out is exactly where the numbers are and how Glenn sees this particular site. Because it has one additional nuance that the other accessory apartments don't have, and that was supposedly it was existing prior to 1982. But we, the board, haven't seen any documentation verifying that. The building inspector, would, and the board would need actual documentation of some kind to even entertain that aspect of it. I think our critical person here is Glenn and what he's found out from the site visit and so forth.
Well, the basement is a finished area, but I guess the question is, when was it finished? So when do we, it's a little, the bylaw's a little tough to, figure out, what existed before 82? The basement is finished today.
Yep.
When it was finished, I don't know, because there are no permits in our file on that.
So the accessory apartment was never applied for.
Pardon me?
The accessory apartment was
No.
never applied for.
No.
That we can find.
No.
And there are no requests for building permits to convert existing structure to an apartment or whatever that we have on record.
No, there was nothing ever granted by me or my predecessor to allow an accessory apartment or a two-family house at this location. If there was something in the file, we wouldn't be here today.
Okay.
How long has this accessory apartment existed from your point of view?
I remember, I got pictures of me in the next door apartment with my grandparents when I was about 7. I'm 40 now, so about 35 years. I'd say at least 30, 35 years, somewhere in between. Probably before that, but as far as I can remember, is when I'm going back when I was a kid. I got pictures, I got a bike next door, my grandfather bought it for me. That's where my grandparents lived, and they moved next door, and my aunt moved where my grandparents lived, and that's the way it was. And when I grew up, ever since I've grown up there, and I just purchased the house figuring it was all, legal, and we thought it was all in good faith. So once we found out it wasn't, that's when we came to apply to make it comply with the town. We had it because I had a tenant living in there. We ended up vacating them out to make it so Glenn could, we could comply with what you guys want.
When did the zoning laws pick up the definition of accessory apartments and the requirement for accessory
That I don't
apartments?
know.
If I look into the,
Nin-
if I look into the
1982.
appendix, if I look into the appendix of the zoning laws, it looks like somewhere in the early 80s, like 83, 82.
August 1, I think it was, or August 20.
Yeah.
It sounds like this preceded that.
Yes,
So
but-
there was no requirement for them to get an accessory apartment approval at the time it was initially established, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
But in essence, what you're doing is you're creating a two-family out of a single family. Because at that time, there were no accessory apartments, so they would have to go to the building inspector and ask for permission to create a two-family from a one-family in a single-family residence. So that's what you have to been able to document. And the only way that I can see that you document that, and we've done it in the past, and Virginia can vouch for that, and that is, you'd have to go back and look at voting records and see if there were people occupying both areas and justifying that that was there. But the problem is that it did not exist in terms of Glenn or his predecessors in the conversion, whatever the conversion is. So that, the way I see it, that's problem number one. Then problem number two is, if we are assuming that this was effective and we're going to do something with it, except for the 1982, do we meet section B, which is the big one, to meet? And the only persons can tell us that because we haven't been there, so it'd have to be Glenn. And does it meet all the code verifications to his standards? And the big thing is the 400 to the 750, and the rest of the numbers, the 1/3, the square footage, maximum, gross floor versus net floor for the apartment, or for the.
Do you know when the basement was finished?
The basement has tile from since they put the house in. And I remember that we used to go downstairs, and my grandmother had a like kitchenette down there, you know, she'd do your cooking or whatever, and it has green and white tile, and it's asbestos, they don't make that anymore, it's under the rug. I put a rug down over it, but I didn't wanna pull it up, so I just covered it. I flashed over it and covered it, but it's green and white tile, and I've done floors for 20 years of my life, and it's asbestos, so you're talking 50s. So it's been finished since the 50s. I mean, it has, the old cable wiring, you know, the cloth wiring. So, I mean, that's back in that's the 50s, that's dating it right there, you know.
Are you planning to use this house as a single-family residence?
Yeah, I'm planning on living there.
No, I'm talking, it's you and your wife and your children.
We're living there now.
That's it.
Yeah, right now.
Who's gonna use the accessory apartment? Is it gonna be a relative or?
I was gonna have one of my cousins move in, my girl cousin, she's going to school for nursing, so I was gonna have her move in. But I wanted to make this legal, so it's illegal, you know, I didn't wanna step on anybody's toes, I wanna do it right, so that's why we're here today.
Every once in a while, we get these kinds of situations where there's no really documented track record that takes you back to where things happened.
My family's been in this town for about 100
Yeah,
years.
I know.
You know.
But
My
to me,
grandfather put in all the power lines, my uncle worked for the Reading Light Department, Joseph Tyne and Albert Tyne, and so my family's been on Ash Street. My great-grandfather came here in 1900, so.
well, let's get some more inputs from the board,
Is this
and then we
the-
can try to pull it together. Excuse me.
Sorry. Is this the type of application that we would require a certified plot plan to consider?
I would say if he's not
I would-
changing absolutely nothing,
I would say yes.
Huh?
To me, every application that comes before the board should have a certified plot plan. I know Glenn doesn't agree with that sometimes. He
What
feels
is
it's
meant
a
by the
home
application?
occupation.
And I don't, it's only if you're requesting a variance.
Right.
or something.
I know you do.
If you look at the requirements under the ZBA application, it's not required. We're not doing any external.
But it's like in this particular case, nice to see where the parking's
Yeah,
going to
right,
be.
right.
You know, is it going
Yep.
to, you know, what's the face of the house look like? Except how's the footprint? Is it encroaching on a setback or something?
Well,
It's nice to see that.
there's a provision in, it says any plans or specifications that to explain your application. So
Right.
under that, we could require
Yeah.
some type of a plot plan.
I like to see it personally, but.
Just a question,
Yep.
and I think a valid one. How is it that your unpermitted accessory apartment came to the attention of the town?
When the tenant said I had lived in there, notified the town. Because I was evicting her and she just didn't want to leave.
I understand.
And I had no idea, me and my wife, because I would've did this when we bought the house 15 years ago, so, you know. We had no idea, so then once we found out, it was like, oh my God, you know. So we've been working with Glenn and just trying to, you know, apply.
Any other comments as we
I'm
got you
sorry,
on
I
doc?
took-
No,
I
it's
took
all right.
Eric's
Are
time.
you done, Eric?
Well, I was just looking a little bit more closely at it.
Okay,
I
let's
note
go
on
back
the
to you and then
assessor's
we'll go
card
back.
They have the basement floor as residential tile. It's like this is from, 1950, so it does look like there's some documented evidence that at least the tile was down. I don't know if we can make the leap that it was finished, but if there's tile, it seems credible.
So to me, it boils down to a judgment call on the part of this
Right.
this group here, okay, as to whether they consider that finished or unfinished, and,
I have there's a map I got from the town, if you guys, I don't know if you guys have that,
I don't know.
but it shows the parking, it shows the house.
I
It
don't
is.
think that was part of our package.
I don't
No,
think
I
it came
don't
in
know,
as part of the
we have
package.
had it at the house, but that's the parking back
No,
there.
we didn't have that.
Yeah, that's this is the, in-law side,
This comes down behind the back of, the
yeah,
back of the
that goes
building.
down behind the back of the
'Cause you
house,
got this whole piece back here.
and then
yeah.
that's a driveway
No,
there.
we have not seen that.
Yeah, that's why it's nice to have a plot plan or something surveyed. I'm looking at this now, it looks like that, if I'm looking at the northwest corner of that house, the whole northwesterly side, looks like it encroaches onto the sideline setback. But
Yeah,
I
I
can't tell via a survey
Yeah,
because
I
it,
own a lot, actually.
oh, you do?
Yeah, if you look,
But it is still two
Yeah.
separate owners.
yeah,
Yeah, over here you own that,
that was my great
Mhm.
great-grandfather's house right there,
right.
and
That's why it's good,
Yeah.
to me personally, I like to see a
This is
plot
past
plan
this,
with every
right?
application. There's always questions, it's great to have a
Oh, yeah.
plan to look at and discuss, myself, but.
It's nice to have that,
Yeah.
I agree with you, but in this particular situation, what is there has been there for a long
Right.
time. What is being done is not changing that in any way. So if there was a setback issue, it's still a
Oh,
setback
yeah.
issue and not a new one.
Yeah, no,
Okay?
no, I agree,
So,
I agree.
okay, any more, Eric?
I see that they have an updated one. This is from 1986, though, a little bit afterwards. But they have the gross living area as, well, the total adjusted one is 2,300, which again seems, to be in line with the numbers that we have here. And if Glenn's gone and verified them, I'm happy with them.
Okay. That it?
That's it.
And I'll go back to you, David.
Actually, you know what, I don't have any further questions. I had my question answered earlier.
Kathleen?
No, major, just, your family has owned and occupied this house since the early eighties, if not before.
since it was built,
And in terms of tenants, it's always been family members that have lived in the accessory apartment?
pretty much except for the last one we had.
Okay,
She's lived there for a few years, and then I had one of my friends and his wife, and their 2 kids live there.
but it's vacant now, there's no.
It's vacant now.
Okay,
So,
no, nothing further.
John, we'll keep coming around.
I'd like to hear what Glenn has as input into all this.
Well, recently, there were 3 units in this house. And that's what brought me down there, okay? So we got rid of the bottom floor unit, and the applicant took out a permit to convert that portion back to the single family. So while we were there was somebody in the basement, and there was somebody in the right-hand side of the house,
On the first floor.
on the first floor. Okay, so we converted, with the benefit of a permit, we reinstalled the basement stairs to make it part of the original house, which it was originally. But somewhere in the past, it was converted somehow. So currently, we resolved the problem by getting rid of one of the units. We removed kitchen cabinets that were down in the basement, not we, the applicant, and so everything other than that seems to comply with the accessory apartment, and I recommended they file for the application here, or we'd have to pursue it further on the other end and try to get the other unit removed. So I suggested to Mike and his wife that they apply for the accessory apartment.
From your point of view, we're going back to the discussion of subparagraph B in this 1/3 of gross family area, you're not uncomfortable with, and I'm maybe putting words in your mouth,
No.
with treating
I'm
the
not- I'm
basement
not
as a finished
uncomfortable.
basement
I
as
think
part of the
I think it
calculation?
complies with it. I mean, I don't know when the basement was
Right.
remodeled.
Well,
How does anybody know that? And
Okay.
that's always a question.
Okay.
So to ask me that question, I can't answer that question.
Okay.
And I'm not gonna answer that question
Okay.
because I don't know when it was remodeled.
Right.
But if we consider that as part of the existing dwelling, he meets the 1/3 criteria, doesn't exceed 750. I think it's fine.
Okay, all right. Back to you, John.
So, on the, in the package, the accessory apartment then represents 721 square feet, according to you, which is now just the right-hand side of the house, first floor area.
Yes.
And the total, which includes now the finished basement, for the main living area, comes up to be, 2592? Or are we talking about,
Well, I didn't verify that, I just accepted, I told him we needed documents on that. You know, that there are no real dimensions on the plan, so it's, that I don't know, for sure. And I don't think that's my job to figure that out, I think if anything, it should be an architectural type plan, you know, with dimensions and square footages. You know,
How are these
unless they
numbers
can-
arrived at?
These documents are
Huh?
submitted.
You measured them?
Me and my uncle measured them and then wrote them down. My uncle drew up all the plans. And then I submitted them to Glenn.
well, one of the concerns that I have is that this is a unique accessory apartment. Accessory apartments, we don't have that many in the town. Before, as I said, we found a way of verifying that, and because this is so unique, I would like to find some way to verify that these numbers are right in there on target.
Okay. I have this problem with all applicants for all accessory apartments, and we've had some recent cases where we've gone through the same thing. You know, people submit plans to be reviewed by the zoning board of appeals. If you're not happy with them, or if they don't convince you, I guess they don't get the special permit. The requirement, probably for all applicants, should be that a plan should be submitted by a registered architect.
Or a licensed contractor that is putting his license on the line
Well,
too, to convert, because
I
in
don't,
most,
I mean, contractors, you know,
okay?
they're like all other homeowners or other human beings, that, you know, they don't have any real, a lot of them don't know how to draw, or some of them think they know how to draw, so.
Okay.
I wouldn't, if you're gonna accept it from a contractor, you should be able to accept it from the homeowner. Okay, you know, if we're gonna do it on a professional level, it should be done by an architect or an engineer.
Well, that's a concern of mine. I have a second concern too, is that right now you go by the property and the property is listed as 337 and 337A. According to the sections of the bylaw here, it is to remain in the form of a accessory apartment as a single-family residence. That's not a single-family residence when you have two designations of two different units living in the same house.
And I guess that might be your opinion, but, I mean, if mail's coming to a location, it should be split up somehow, whether it's unit 1, unit 2, or unit A or unit B. In engineering, usually, engineering's in charge of issuing the addresses, so I don't know if that's a formal address with engineering. You have to ask them.
It's been that way. It's
Right, so I don't-
Albertine, it's been next door. It still says it on the mailbox. It's been there for.
Right, so I don't think that changes the situation other than,
I mean, it's
Yeah.
minute, but at the same time, you know,
Yeah.
we need to have consistency with, what we do with the accessory apartments and all the other accessory apartments. There is no large number on the front designated the difference between them. When the mailman goes up, he knows which is which. Because there's two entryways, most of them are inside, but they don't all have to be inside. Just a minor point, that the biggest point,
Yeah.
biggest concern that I have is that we don't have any as you would put it, architectural plans
oh,
justifying or
this-
verifying the numbers.
This is an issue with me on every applicant that comes in, because they, you know, a lot of them, South Street that we went through, I wasn't happy with the applicant's, submission, because I had a hard time, difficulty understanding it. I told him that, and I don't know if he's coming before you next meeting, again, so we're at that level again.
Again.
So that's gonna be another difficult one. So if the board, you know, if the board feels that we should be requiring an architectural plan, then I will, you know, we'll put that in our application form and make sure that it's done. Whether we have to go to town meeting for that, or whether we can just, I mean, they have to submit enough information to satisfy you. So I think that's the only true way of doing it.
Anything else, John? Bob?
I think we've hit on most of the points that I had here. Now, I picked up no certified plot plan submitted. And I know in particular cases with accessory apartments, because there is no change to the outside structure, many times Glenn doesn't really require the applicant to do that. You heard my reasons already. I'm not gonna reiterate those, why I like to see them. My questions was this, you know, the dates on the accessory apartment. I believe the applicant that it has been there prior to 1982, when the accessory apartment ordinance was adopted, or bylaw, was adopted by the town. And in that particular case, as John said before then, it was considered a two-family. I can see where it's adopted, and, you know, there's probably many houses out in Reading that when that accessory apartment was adopted, everybody didn't come running in to submit an application to get a special permit for they figured, well, I've had it here for years and, you know, I'm grandfathered. And I would tend to probably think that way myself. And it shows up when they have to do work in these apartments, or in this particular case, you know, when Glenn has had to visit it and things are brought up that way. I guess my biggest concern is, does the apartment meet the criteria required for an accessory apartment? It sounds like, from listening to Glenn's opinion, that he thinks it does right now. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but that's what I get out of it. And I was surprised to hear that there were 2 apartments plus the main domicile was in there prior, and now it's just an apartment and the main living area on that. And it appears Glenn has seen that and has looked at it in the basement, has taken out, it sounds like there was a kitchen in the basement area, that has been removed. So that's not considered an extra apartment area there now. And I think that's what we look at. We look to Glenn's opinion on that. In these accessory apartments, he's the one that visits it. Certainly board members don't schedule a site visit to go out and
Not anymore.
go through somebody's apartment or house on that. So if Glenn is satisfied that it meets the criteria for an accessory apartment, I would tend to take his word on that. Other than that, it appears to me that I would have no other issues with it then, if it meets all the criteria of the accessory apartment bylaw.
Well, what it sounds to me like is what is there has been there for a long time. A very long time. And I would tend to accept the numbers that are in here as calculations for subparagraph B. Couple of just points of clarification. I know that you wrote some notices back to them in the fall of last year about non-compliance with codes and so forth. Is that all behind us?
Yes,
So that's all been cleared up in code, so the facility, the structure at this point meets all building codes?
yes.
Okay.
We have we have to do a final inspection on the new stairway.
Uh-huh,
We haven't done, that hasn't been done yet.
okay,
A rough
But the-
inspection was, the stairway was installed. It didn't have the railings and balusters at that time, but
okay.
we're at this point here. I mean, before we would do anything with the accessory apartment, I'd wanna make sure that the stairway is complete to the basement.
Okay.
The stairs were in, but the railings weren't on it at that time.
And I would certainly agree with Bob that, we normally like to see a certified plot plan here and architectural drawings for something like this. But this is kind of unique in a way that it's, what it is what it was, okay? And nothing's really changing, and so I would question whether you really need to provide that kind of detail for something like this. Any other comments from the board before I open it up for public? And then I'll open it up to the public portion of the meeting. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak on this particular case? Then I'll close the public portion. Any further comments from the board before I entertain a motion? Then I will, yes, John.
I would still, figuring that this is a unique situation, I'd like to have some verification that the numbers are correct. And if there's a potential of getting an architect in there, to do that, to do the numbers and whatever, and provide the plan, or, continue it until that is done, and he gets the final inspection for the reconversion, of the 3 to the 2. I mean, this is an illegal 2 to begin with, so that's the only reason I wanna move in that direction, but, that's just me. Just like in this case, have the I's dotted and T's crossed.
Is there anyone else on this board that feels the same way? That we should do that or act on it this evening? I assume silence means John's alone. Okay. Then I will entertain a motion. Eric, would you like to give us a motion?
I move that the board grant the petition of Michael and Tammy Tiny, who seek a special permit
Is
under.
it tiny or tine?
It's
Tine.
Like time, I guess,
It's okay.
with an under section 4.3.2.8 of the Reading zoning bylaws, in order to in order to continue the use of an accessory apartment in an existing single-family dwelling on the property located at 337 Ash Street in Reading, Massachusetts. I don't know if we have any conditions on that. Right, there's no plans or anything.
I would think so.
Final inspection for the 3 to 2 conversion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you
I
can
would-
make that a condition.
I would maybe just make reference that, that the applicant has submitted with his application, his responses or their responses to the accessory apartment bylaw there. And, that's what we're accepting, I guess, in regards to the area, the square footage, et cetera, that you did.
Okay.
And, and it's been, that's what we would be accepting and taking the applicant's word. They certainly
Okay.
swore to it tonight and
All right.
et cetera.
I'll say, the board finds credible the petitioner's calculation of the gross square footage, and will that's what I'm looking for. Will condition this on the successful inspection by the building inspector for the conversion to a, for the accessory use, from a 2 to a, from a 3 to a 2 accessory use. Everyone happy with that? That was kind of a mouthful.
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Now, just so we're clear, to pass this motion, we need a majority?
I believe on a special permit, yes, you do. You need 3 out of 5.
I think you need 4 out of 5.
I think
I
it's
think
super.
a variance, you need 4 out of 5, not?
Um,
I think it's a super.
Which would mean 4.
Where is that defined?
In
Who
48.
should know this, but,
48.
huh?
Yeah.
48?
Yeah, in 48.
So you need to understand that in order for this to pass, 4 out of the 5 voting members need to approve it. And if it doesn't pass,
Section 10, John?
This is very old, as you can see. And I think it was an update.
My copy.
Section 10 is for variances, we want special permits.
that is a very old copy, John.
Yes, I know.
The type is, whoa. Well, I guess the point I'm
Section
making is that
9A.
it takes 4 out of 5 to approve it, and if you don't get that vote, you can't.
And the reason I say that, I think we have voted before when there's been only 4 members present,
Yeah,
and we've had a quorum with 4 members, and a special permit has been, I believe,
3 out of 4.
approved, which is a 3-to-1 vote,
Right.
I believe, on that. And in that particular case, when we had 4 members, it had to be unanimous for a variance. But, that's what I recall.
3 out of 4 would be a supermajority of those voting and present.
That's true,
Right.
that's true. But I think what happens if it doesn't pass, you're basically stuck with living in that house as a single-family residence, and your cousin or whoever it is,
It's more the income that
With income.
seems to help to help us with the mortgage and the bills and the taxes.
well, I noted that, I
Yeah.
noticed in here that you had indicated that this would help with the affordability of the home.
Right.
So I assumed that I thought you might be renting it out to somebody, but it's a family member.
It's gonna be rented out to my cousin and maybe one of her friends with her, but,
Hmm.
you know,
Okay,
just
Can't
to
find
make
it?
income.
A vote, vote of at least 4 members of a 5-member board, or unanimous vote of a 3-member board. So it's 4.
Doesn't matter whether it's a special permit or variance?
In fact, this is under special permits.
Is it? Okay.
okay. So
Section
we have a motion and we have a second from David. Again, the voting members will be everyone except Eric. All in favor? It's 4, opposed? 4-1, the motion passes.
Thank you very
You're
much.
good to go.
Thank you very much.
There's nothing to stamp off, I don't think.
No.
I don't need to give you anything, so.
Okay, beautiful. No, thank you
All
very
right.
much. I plan on getting the whole deal next
Okay.
week and we can do that
Thank you.
final. Thank you.
All right. Sorry to hold you up, but here we are. The last case for the evening is case 14-11. Legal notice, the zoning board of appeals will hold a public hearing in the selectmen's meeting room of the town hall on Lowell Street in Reading on Thursday, the 19th of June at 7 p.m. on the motion of an, I don't want to embarrass myself, Pierpaolo Polvera? Okay, I'll let somebody else pronounce it the next time. Who seeks a, you gotta be Italian, right? Who seeks a special permit under section 633 and 638 of the zoning bylaws in order to remove an existing non-conforming 13 by 14 foot, one-story structure and request permission to construct a new 14 by 29 two-story structure located 12.6 feet from the property line, or 12 feet 6 inches, 12.6 feet from the property line on the property located at 47 Summer Street in Reading. Again, unless there's an objection, I'll dispense with the reading of the abutters list, other than say they were notified, as well as the Board of Selectmen, Town Clerk, Building Department, Fire Department, Police Department, Conservation Commission, Health Department, Assessor's Office, Engineering Division, CPDC, members and associate members of the Zoning Board of Appeals, as well as the planning boards of Wakefield, Westfield, Stoneham, North Reading, Woburn, and Wilmington. Testimony given again before this board is under oath, so if you wish to speak on this, anyone in the audience, please stand at this time. Testimony given before this board, please stand. It's taken under oath, so if you think you may want to speak, stand and raise your right hand. I swear the testimony given by me before this board is truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The answer is I do. Then identify yourself and,
So my name is Pierpaolo Polvera, nice meeting you.
thank you.
And so we have been living in Reading for about 8 years. We originally thought that as our family increases in size, that we would move out to a different place. And we put the house on the market last year. We got the offer for the price that we wanted, and then we realized that they actually liked the town, the house, and the neighborhood. And so we are asking to replace an existing porch that is non-conforming to the neighbor, an existing 12.6 feet, and build an extension, basically replace that, put an basement, unfinished basement, first floor and second floor, with a master bedroom on the second floor, and like a living space on the first floor for our daughter, basically. Hopefully it is that simple. I don't know, we talked to Glenn, helped me out with the special permit. We have an architect who designed the plots, and we seek to preserve the existing setback.
Okay. Comment, Glenn?
Yeah, the existing 14 by 13 structure is 12.6 feet from the property line,
Correct.
and he proposes to remove that and construct a new addition, 14 by 29, the same 12.6 feet from the property line. So, I'm trying to, I'm not sure if a special permit alone is required, or if we need a variance. No, if you were to extend that, the special permit would be in line. But now we're actually removing it and starting off from scratch. So this, so 6332, Board of Appeals may grant a special permit to reconstruct, extend, alter, or change a non-conformity. I guess if we're reconstructing it, I guess we could qualify under the special permit,
Change, maybe, to
right?
change it from a deck to an enclosed building.
Well, it's not a deck, it's
It's
enclosed.
a-
metal.
it's a-
It's an enclosed
Change it from-
three-season room
To
now.
enclosed three-season room,
From a
which,
exterior
which
three-season
technically
room
means
to
it's
a
not,
finished.
not heated.
Basically a room on the current house.
Right. So would we agree that change might also apply?
Yes.
So that we still might be within the special permit
Reconstruction,
arena?
extension, or structural change, an alteration to, yep.
Okay.
David, we'll
So I-
come back
so I
to
thi-
your.
So I think we're back to the, you know, a typical special permit requirement
Right,
to reconstruct a non-conforming structure.
the only remaining nonconformity will be the currently existing corner nonconformity of nonconformity of 12.6 feet,
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
In all other respects, that addition, proposed addition, will be conforming by 0.7.
Correct.
In the middle of the wall, in the middle of the addition, and then almost 20 feet at the front, given
Yeah.
the diagonal lot line.
So technically, if he was to leave the existing structure there, he could add on the balance of that new structure by right. Because it conforms to the 15.7. But because of the fact of us tearing it down and reconstructing,
Right.
he needs a special permit.
Well, I mean, I would argue even if, I don't know, I'm not sure if it would be by right, because he would be making a change to an existing nonconformity, so I'm not sure that would be by right.
He could,
Either.
if the existing structure was to remain, the new addition starts at 15.7, it conforms. So
Oh, you mean, okay, so
So the add-on-
from where that,
right.
where that.
if he was to
I gotcha,
add on
I
to
gotcha.
the
No, I got it now.
existing three-season, that could be done by right.
I see what you mean now.
Okay.
Yep, thanks for the clarification. Now I get it. Now I get it. That's, I don't have anything else.
Kathleen,
I have no further questions.
John,
It appears that three-season porch was put on sometime, I don't see a building permit, but sometime around 1973. Is that what 12/8/73, B and T, I don't know what a B and T is. And it was a special permit. Is on the assessor's, so I'm assuming that that was put on legally.
That I don't know.
What do you on the property card, John?
Down the bottom with the remarks, and then the card itself, in the middle of it designates the structure, indicates that glass screen inserts, tile, electricity, and screen door were added in 75. I mean, that's the only concern that I have, is going back and dotting our i's and crossing our t's again. But I'm gonna have to assume that that's where we're going, that it was put on. I know that you weren't on the property at that time, that's why that you'd have to go back and look at the decision, special permit. I assume that's what it was allowed at that time.
Well, I think if you go to the next page, John, up at the top,
Yep.
it's an appraisal from December of 1982. And I think at least the outline of the building indicates that
Okay,
that the structure itself was existing at the time of the appraisal.
okay.
I don't know, I can't tell from that drawing whether or not it was enclosed.
Well,
Obviously,
But if you go back, it says it was enclosed in,
75, so
75.
we might be able to presume that in
But that was-
1982 it was enclosed
yeah,
at the time of that appraisal.
yeah. I'm glad you pointed that out, the appraisal aspect of it. I didn't pick that up. But thank you. That's all I have.
Bob?
That's, was my question, number one. Was a building permit ever pulled for the three-season porch?
I didn't even look that up.
Yeah,
I mean, it's,
it clearly looks to me, but looking at the plans and looking at the plot plan, I would be almost sure that it is an addition to the original house. It was probably not part of the original.
okay,
on
we have a Mass General law that
Yeah.
talks about structures with permits and structures without permits. Basically, a structure without a permit that's there for 10 years
Is,
is there by right today.
right,
If it's there 7 years with a permit but built the wrong size, that's okay too.
It's
So-
okay too.
So Mass
I
General's
agree.
laws talks about 7 and 10
so
years.
it's a legal structure right now.
Correct.
It is. And even though it does not meet the side yard setback on that.
Right, so illegal structures that are there for more than
Right.
10 years or 7 years, with or without a permit, do become a legal structure. become
Absolutely.
non-conforming, right.
Absolutely, understandable. To my way of thinking on this, I don't believe that that the new structure being proposed there is the same as the one-story porch. I think it is much more detrimental to the neighborhood and to the abutting property owner than the one-story porch. A 2.5-story, I know he calls it two-story addition. I'm looking at it, it's taller than the original
I saw that.
house. And I call it a 2.5-story addition. If I'm the abutter, and I've sat there for years looking at something that was 1 story, and now something that's coming in is gonna be 15 feet taller than what was there before, I think that's a concern. I think it's a detriment. And I don't think you've met the criteria then to grant a special permit, because it is much more detrimental to the neighborhood and substantially more detrimental to the abutter that's there. I don't know if you have any way of reconfiguring your addition or not. Certainly, if you brought that back and you made that far corner for the lot, let's see, south, it would be the, southwesterly corner of the house, instead of being 12.6, if you did bring that back to 15 feet, I don't know how that would impact you, whatever. In that particular case, you would have no need to be here. That you would be allowed by right to do that because you've met the setback. But because you wanna put it 12.6 feet from the property line, in my opinion, I don't think it's right on that,
Just-
yeah.
Can I?
Yep.
So, just to be clear, I mean, first of all, we're talking about 2 feet, right? And second, we look in all possible ways to avoid to go through this, of course. There are stairs that need to be installed inside, and that's the reason to keep the existing setback.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we didn't have the stairs, then we probably wouldn't need those 2 extra. And that's why I'm here. I mean, if it is of any help, of course, everybody who's my neighbor, including Don Monson, who's the guy next to us, who would be impacted the most, they are not here, because they are okay, and they came and talked to me. I can even provide, written, if that helps,
Mhm.
with your concern, written statements from the existing neighbors who
Well-
will be impacted the most.
Right. No, I can understand that, and I'm glad you did talk to them, and, I'm sure they've told you what their thoughts were. And knowing the way people act, in particular cases like this, they wanna stay good neighbors possibly, and they're not going to cause an issue on that, even though they may personally talk amongst themselves that they don't like it, but they wanna be a good neighbor, you wanna be a good neighbor, et cetera, so they will do it. So that's why it comes to us to make a decision on that. Sometimes a decision, it's a tough decision to make.
It's fair.
In this particular case, I personally can't support it because of that, because of the size of the addition going in to replace that 1-story front porch.
What is your setback is 12.6 feet. What is the setback for the property next to you? Do you know? Your neighbor, how far is he from?
What's the addition?
How far is
Their
his
house.
structure
Their house.
from
from the border.
Border.
It's probably gonna be like,
Probably shows up on
20, 25 feet.
20?
25 feet. The house is really away, that house is really away from it. There is
I thought
also,
that they were, I
Well,
thought that they were
they're-
pretty close together.
They're all narrow lots in that area, I'm
Exactly.
looking at now, but,
And when I
you know,
went
that
by,
would be it doesn't show the actual footprint of the house.
I say this because, I mean, of course, on the
Yeah.
other side, the house is much closer to us, and this seems farther out, but it's definitely more than 15, it's probably 20 or 25 feet.
I don't know how much the tax map is to be believed with
Mm.
regard to the placement of the structures, but if you
Yeah,
look at
that's what
this,
we're looking at, it's.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
it's not entirely accurate, I would imagine.
And the foliage in that area, if I recall, there seems to be a lot of trees.
Yeah, our
A lot
lot
of
is-
trees.
Our lot is wooded. Yeah. We actually had to take 3 trees down earlier last fall.
Can your neighbors see your house very well?
Well, so the one next to us, yes.
I mean, the one on,
Exactly, the one that
I
would
guess
be
whatever,
impacted
the
the
right
most.
side.
Yes, there are two trees, but the probably, I wanna say that probably 80% or 90% of the property that would be visible. Behind us, or on the other side, of course, it's all wooded, so.
Going
Any
along
other-
with John's, I'm sorry,
ahead.
please go ahead.
I was just saying, any other members of the board have the same concern that Bob is expressing?
Well, to sort of echo Bob's concern, I don't see anything in the drawings, and I don't know that this would add to any conditions that we might think about, that gives us a measurement of the height of the proposed addition, how high it will be.
Right, other than
Roof
a
line?
scale.
Other than to say that I'm sure, you know, that Glenn during his due diligence would ensure that it stays within the restrictions. But it might be helpful to know how close it is to the height restriction. I mean, I suppose we could use the scale and come up with some, at least a rough estimate.
So Bob's gonna do that right now.
I gotta throw a scale on it here.
Right, so by, if the scale, if the scale of the front plan drawing is to be relied upon as accurate, Glenn's just done a rough, if that 26-foot span that we look at in the top drawing is put vertically on the side of the house, it's well within the height restrictions.
Right, I think it's within the height restriction of
Right.
35 feet.
Right.
But still, you're talking something that was there before that, I'm looking at it now, about 9.5 feet tall, to something that's gonna be 23 feet tall on that side. So, and that's my concern, as I say, I think there's a couple of criteria to grant a special permit on this, and number one, there's no new nonconformity, which I agree, there is no new nonconformity. It's still 12.6 feet. But you have to look at the detriment. Is there a substantial detriment to the neighborhood caused by the new construction? And my personal opinion is there is.
Anything else you wanna add?
No.
Okay, Eric?
Well, I mean, based on the drawings here, I think the addition's kind of in line architecturally with the rest of the look of the house.
That's exactly what we want to do.
I mean, I do understand Bob's concern, but I also think that it's a public forum here, and if they wanted to come and, you know, air any grievances or give any official opposition, this is their chance to do it. If they wanna remain silent, you know, forever hold their peace. That's kinda my take on it. So I don't have a problem with it.
Anything else?
That's it.
Yeah. I mean, it would be nicer if the top of that house went straight across. Okay? That still makes it bigger, okay? Still makes it bigger.
It's a contemporary, you know,
Are there any other,
it's the choice.
I
have no
I
problems
drove
with
through
that.
the area, but I didn't
Yeah.
take stock of any other two-story houses in that neighborhood. Are there? There's gotta be.
Oh, yes, there is, yeah, many of them.
Some of them are on the other side, so you can, from the road, they develop under, because it's a slope area of town. So they are two-story, but you wouldn't be able to tell, because the second story is lower than the road.
Mhm.
But there's actually a brand-new house near the conservation that was built a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
It's a humongous house.
And did we grant a special permit on Summer Ave? Not too long ago?
On Summer Ave? Yeah, but I don't
Maybe not.
recall what it was.
Maybe not, maybe last year it was.
Any other comments before I open it up to the public?
Is there a, you know, we look at the front elevation, is there, is the first floor on the new structure, level with the existing first floor?
That's what we would like to do.
And then what are your ceiling heights inside? I mean, it appears that your second floor is substantially higher ceiling-wise than the normal. I mean, instead of having 7 or 8 foot ceilings, you're looking at 12 or 11 foot ceilings.
So the first floor would be around 8 feet. I believe that's what the architect said. Just don't quote me, but it would be like either 7.5 or 8 feet, the first floor. The second floor,
Which is standard, yeah.
yeah, the second floor is sloped, because we like to, because of the way the house is built. So on one end, it would be probably like 7.5 again, 7.5 feet, and then on the other hand, it would be out of 10. I don't really know, based on what you guys can.
scale.
You should have a scale.
But it would be sloped, and on this side, closest to the property would be actually where it's the shortest side.
Use the 40.
Hmm?
Use the 40, and then double it. That would be about 22,
I'm going to the top of this.
if you're going to the top of that.
Let's think to 8. So it's going from like 8 to 13, 14. So there's the height of this one.
Okay, right there. That's 11 and a half.
Yeah,
Or
I'm
23
lining up
feet.
with, I'm lining up with the bottom of the
Yeah.
garages here. Okay?
How high is the house sitting right now off of Summer
This
Ave?
house, this goes right to that roof
Yeah.
line right there. This, so,
It also depends.
right
where
now
you
it goes
start.
that high, so
Is the driveway-
you're
when you-
adding this.
The driveway
That's what
goes
you're
into the
adding,
garage.
exactly.
That is how much?
So when you look at the house
by your
from the street,
calculation?
you see the garage
You're going
is
from
here,
our-
and then you see
That's
the first
existing
floor.
right there, and that's where the-
And then there is a little bit of the
Right.
roof
Right.
from the
Little.
existing
Yeah.
first floor, which also has a slope. So it must be,
What I do right there, it's about 8 feet
I
tall.
wanna say when you look from this side, it's probably like the garage, which is, maybe 7 feet, 7.5, plus the first floor, but on the taller side, so it's gonna be another 13, 14, maybe 15 feet, so 23, 24 feet, 25 maybe. I should know better because I painted that, but.
What I was getting at, you
Hmm.
mentioned it was something like 16 feet. It looks more like about half of that from the existing.
Right,
to the
from
new.
the existing roof to the roof of the new addition's another 8 feet or so.
Yeah, another
Right,
8 feet.
9 feet, yeah.
That would be the flat roof on the front, or
Right.
or the pitched
The
roof behind.
flat roof of
Right.
the existing sun
Yeah.
porch to the
Oh,
roof
6 of it,
of
yes.
the addition,
Yeah.
where the sun porch is gonna be, looks like it's about 8 to 9 feet taller.
That's,
It'll-
this would
it'll
be the second.
That's the differential.
Yeah, it would
Yeah.
be the second floor.
It,
It's hard to view what the neighbor to the,
Well, I think if you take a look at the second page page two, you see the existing right elevation and the proposed right elevation, what he's gonna be facing. Right here is what he faces now. This is what they're gonna be facing in the future. Here's the sun porch right here. There's the
Right.
existing
in the
roof now.
new structure.
Right, it's
It
a
takes-
whole new.
Right, it's a wall there,
Right, it's a whole new wall there as opposed to just a sunroom.
yeah. Sunroom breaks it up right now.
Yeah.
Any other comments before I open it up to public opinion? I'll open up the public portion. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak on this? I'll close the public portion. Is there any further discussion from the board? Again, I'll point out the same thing I did with the other case, and that is you need 4 out of 5 to pass this. If you don't get 4 out of 5, I think that sets you back for what period of time? Before you can come back again?
2 years?
2 years, I believe
Is
it
it
is.
2 years?
2 years of variance, 2 years of variance,
What is it on the permit?
a special permit, I don't notice if there's a,
Is there any time you come back?
I mean, Glenn, do you know about,
I mean, before we cast the vote, I want
right,
petitioner to understand exactly what it means.
I know it's 2 years on a variance.
I don't think that, good thing I carry this
I know.
dilapidated book around with me, huh? We ought to get a new one.
Bear with us.
Maureen, we all need new copies of 40A.
Yeah.
40A, even though it might be changed shortly.
What I'm trying to come up with is give you an alternative that, you either vote on it tonight, it could be turned down, could pass, but if it's turned down, where do you go from there, okay? And, as opposed to, for example, continuing it and taking a look at what you might do with your architectural design to bring it more in line.
The reality is, like, we don't wanna touch, we cannot go back because it doesn't get any better conforming, and we don't wanna touch the existing structure. Otherwise, I would have done other things, but, we were, advised not to touch the existing structure just because, it was built in the 50s, and it could open up for issues, and we have a limited budget, so, this seems to be the best solution for us to take a house which is currently like barely 1,000 square feet, and add some space.
Finding anything? John, David?
The only 2-year reference is that, if the board grants a special permit and nothing is done for a period of 2
For
years.
a period of 2 years, yeah,
Then it lapses.
then it lapses,
It
right.
doesn't specify what happens, if the board hears it and, does not vote affirmatively, what happens then?
You finding anything, David? Anything more?
Yeah, but hold on.
We are holding.
Sorry, bear with me for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get to that point in the statute. now there's an appeal within 20 days.
Right.
Which is standard.
I can't find it in 40A.
It's not specified if the board were to turn it down, it's not specified.
So, yeah.
What's the
it's-
time limit to come in? I assume that having not mentioned it, it would mean that if you wanted to come back and adjust, what you're proposing, if it does, if it fails, you can do so the very next day. However, you have to wait for that, no, you wouldn't have to wait,
Publication
you have to
period.
wait for
You
the
have to wait.
decision to be filed first.
Yeah. Don't you have to wait for the appeal period too?
Well, if it gets turned down, who's gonna appeal it? Except the applicant, and the applicant can come back in and he could either do an appeal,
You could do an appeal, not to us.
which would mean goes to court,
Yep, could do
or
that.
he could come back in and adjust his proposal before the board.
Well, I guess that's what's before you tonight is, we might pass it, we might not pass it. If we don't pass it, then you're faced with going back and looking at what you might do to make it less detrimental.
That's if we
Okay.
vote tonight, or you
If we
could
vote
ask
tonight.
for a continuation. You could go and talk to your architect if you wanted to maybe revamp plans. See what you could do. I'm quickly looking at the plan here. You may not be the perfect solution to you. You may like the way it's laid out now, but if you notched that addition in, where it becomes the 15-foot setback, and notch that in and bring it back, you're gonna affect your foundation only in the basement. The family room, it'll have a notch there and then going up the wall, so you'll have a notch this way and like that. But it's all open space. And the same thing with the master bedroom, you might have to reconfigure your walk-in closet in your entry to the master bath. But it's all open space that could be maybe notched and then kicked out again to meet the 15-foot setback.
That
You-
requires moving a bathroom, shrinking a bedroom. I mean, there are
You're shrinking the
implications.
bedroom, right.
Yeah, and at that point, I wouldn't even need the special permit because I would be conforming.
You wouldn't even need, no, you would meet all setbacks, you would not need, all you'd need is a building permit, period.
And more money, but that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Trying to avoid that,
Right.
those extra expenses.
Okay, that's, what I say, we throw the options out, it's up to you what to do, yeah.
Well, I think,
Well,
ahead.
the other option too is, go back to the point where it meets the 15-foot setback, which would give him about
That's what I'm saying.
a 20-foot, so you would take it and you would cut it here. So
Well,
instead of being
that-
29 feet deep,
Yeah,
it would be the equivalent of about 20, I'm guessing,
right,
21 or 22 feet.
yeah.
So
Well, that's what I'm saying, John, where it became the
I know,
15-foot,
notch it,
notch it and bring
Yeah.
it back.
right.
But that's what I'm saying, if you talk to your architect, something possibly could happen, but again, that's your choice.
I think the position we've put him in is that he's faced with a decision tonight.
Yeah,
And if he gets a negative decision, then he's faced with going back and looking at what he might do along the lines that
Right.
is being thrown out on the table. I think a decision tonight will enable him to know whether he has to do that or not.
okay, yeah.
Okay? So, having said that, are there any more comments from the board before I ask for a motion? John, you're thinking again.
Yep. I think it's a difficult decision, to tell you the truth, because I think Bob does raise a valid point here. But in terms of the vote, I'm thinking an abstention could mess things up badly.
That's interesting.
Oh,
That's very interesting, as a matter of fact.
Cause you wouldn't get your.
Attorney, if someone were to abstain, now you're faced with 4 votes. And you get, say it ends up 3 out of 4, what does that mean?
If a member abstains, although the time to
I think you'd have to have 2
The-
members abstain. Because we do have
Or you could
an
have one,
associate.
you could have 1 vote against, 1 abstain, and 3 vote in favor, and then you're, still haven't got the majority, so it doesn't not go through.
Correct me if I'm wrong, if somebody decided to abstain from this vote, would you not then go to the associate to get 5 votes? It's just like
That's a good,
somebody
good point.
stepping down because
good point.
they feel they have,
If you're stepping out of the picture,
yeah.
then maybe we bring in,
good question. I don't have an answer. In my mind, I don't have an answer. I don't know how that would.
I'm not sure any of us have, this has never come up before. Has it?
Nobody's ever abstained before, as far as I know, other than if it affected you directly, you did not hear the case. Yeah.
There's a 90-day period to appeal a Board of Appeals decision based upon a defect in procedure. So I would argue that in order to preserve that right, an aggrieved party would have to wait 90 days for that appeal period to run. Presuming I would take the position that it's not just a 20-day appeal period, that there's, built into the statute is a 90-day appeal period for defect in procedure, not just the,
Well, that's whether it's a variance or a special permit. It's either one, isn't it?
yeah, either way.
Based on what you just said, let's assume that 1 member of this board abstained. And we brought in the associate member to vote.
I would argue yes.
Who would appeal? Somebody has 90 days to appeal that procedure?
Under 40A-17, yes,
And who might possibly do that?
an aggrieved party,
Yeah, anybody.
somebody who is
Okay.
aggrieved by that decision.
They
Okay?
don't even have to be sitting here tonight. No, it could be
Okay.
anybody.
All right.
They'd have to have standing to appeal the decision.
They'd have to be in the neighborhood.
Right.
Okay. Well, that's an alternative. You're looking puzzled over there,
How does that work if the
Glenn.
20 days goes by and you file the recording with the registry of deeds? They can come in after that 20-day period and? 'Cause
You mean
basically
somebody-
At that point, that's when we would issue a permit.
Right, and
After the 20-day appeal period, after getting a recorded document, decision,
We're in territory we
issue a
haven't been in
permit.
before.
I would argue that the 90 days still applies, even if the permit's been recorded. Because you're not necessarily appealing, you could still be an aggrieved party entitled to that 90-day limitations period, even the applicant by filing and accepting that decision and filing with the registry of deeds could within that 90-day period make an argument that they're still aggrieved.
Boy.
It's getting creative. and
Isn't
it's
it?
getting
We've
creative.
never run into it, as far as I know.
Well-
It's always been when somebody has disagreed with our decision,
They appeal
it's
it.
always been appealed within the 20-day period.
well, that's
Yeah.
when we issue.
Exactly.
But that's under the, arbitrary and capricious and,
Mhm. Yeah.
What if, I'm just throwing another thought on the table. What if he, the petitioner, got written inputs from his abutters saying, it's A-OK, great, we have no problem, wonderful? What does that mean?
That could sway the board.
I
It
don't
could
think-
sway the board.
I'm not saying it would, I'm
Yeah.
just saying it could sway the
It
board.
It could.
but not necessarily. Yeah.
That's
And
true.
you're right, it can go either way.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what you're looking at, you're asking if the petitioner wants to ask for continuance for the purposes of getting something in writing from his immediate abutters or whatever, relative to if they feel it's if they feel that it goes beyond the point of being not negatively affecting the neighborhood.
I guess where I'm going with this thing is that if we did that, if he continued this, to give him an opportunity to solicit input from his abutters, it would also give us an opportunity to maybe get council to look into this board abstention, bring in an associate member, the legality of all that.
Why would
Why would-
I'm sorry, why would a board member abstain?
That's what I'm saying, wouldn't
Why
there
would
have to
we-
be a
w-
reason?
is- I mean, I guess, let's ask the question, is a board member gonna abstain if we take a vote on this today? Do we think somebody's inclined to do that?
Yes.
Okay,
That's
so
what
that's
I-
why we're going
that's what I-
down,
that's what
that's
I
why we're having this,
That's why I.
that's why we're
what I
having this,
understand,
going through this
yes.
exercise, okay.
Yep.
So if one board member abstains, then we bring in an associate member to make up
Correct.
for the
Yeah,
total voting
Mhm.
pool.
Right.
And if we're gonna vote, and the decision would still be binding, because it would be as if the abstaining member was not present. And I think then we have an obligation, in order to get the supermajority, to utilize, again, this is my opinion, to utilize all members present,
mm-hmm.
to obtain that supermajority and get to the heart of the matter, get to the vote, presuming the applicant wants us to vote today, wants a decision from us today. My opinion.
I frankly don't think he has any recourse.
Well,
I mean, that decision will say whether what he wants to do is okay or not. And if it's not okay, then he's faced with going back and making change. He knows what he's gonna do when he leaves the building tonight. One way or the other. I'm just trying to look at it from the standpoint of what is fair to the petitioner in terms of him going away tonight, figuring out what he wants to do. Whether he can do what he's asked for, or whether he has to make change. Because I'm hearing that there's no reason why he can't come back very soon with change along the lines of what he hears here. Am I right or wrong?
If there is an abstention, why did the person abstain? So, the person might abstain, which would be me. Because it's not clear in my mind, in a situation like this, if all alternatives have been pursued, yet the thought that this is potentially a possibility for any extension under 6.3.2, is it 6.3.3.8?
638, I believe.
Yeah,
is the one
just
you're talking
638.
about, right?
638.
638.
Actually, 6381, and then it would be
B.
Part B. I mean, we have done so many of these before. We have never come up against a situation like this before, where it would have an impact on somebody who is not here. And in terms of preserving that option, you would either have to say, well, because of that, either continue and get clarification, or vote against it. And the only other option is, option 3 is to abstain and let somebody else take the vote.
well, I mean, I guess I would disagree in one respect, in that because there are no abutters here objecting, I don't think we can take that as their acquiescence to the project. But like Bob has mentioned, it's the board's job to then be
Make the
the
determination.
arbiter in that
Exactly.
discretionary portion as to whether or not we think this is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. And that's well within our rights to do, and if we don't think that we have enough information to vote on it, then we should make that determination now and advise the petitioner. if we think that we have enough information to make a determination as to whether or not we think that that standard is satisfied, because I think if we just go through it a little bit, I think we're all in agreement that that it meets, it doesn't provide any further nonconformity. It
Right.
meets applicable setbacks. We've surmised through Glenn's, addition and math that we think the height requirement's gonna be met, and if not, we're gonna make, we're at the very least gonna make it a requirement, and it would always be a requirement. When Glenn would take a look at some as-bills, to make sure that that was the case. So the only remaining issue, I think, for us to consider is the substantially more detrimental piece. And if we don't think that we have enough information, or one or more members of the board don't think we have enough information, to make a determination on that, then I would argue that a determination of that board member that feels that way is that, based upon their own interpretation of that position, it either does or it doesn't. I mean,
The
it
key
is or it
word
isn't
here
more,
is substantial.
more substantially
I
more
think
detrimental.
most of us would agree that it's probably,
Exactly.
appears more detrimental. The key word is substantial.
Well,
That's a big word.
Right,
Very
Right.
difficult word.
Big word.
right.
Lots of interpretation.
Absolutely.
And so, I guess, with that said, would the board members be inclined to vote on this petition tonight? If we don't think that we're able to vote on this petition tonight because we don't have enough information, then we should inform the petitioner of what additional information we would
Exactly,
require,
that's what
and
I'd
have him
say.
come back. Advise him that a continuance might be in his best interest, and provide us information, provide the board information that would give us an indication, presuming we need it. I'm not hundred
But
percent
don't
sure
you
that we
think
do.
we need to tell him
I'm
what
not
we
hundred
need?
percent sure that we need that, but presuming we feel collectively that we do, in my opinion, then we should inform the petitioner of that and ask him if he wants to come back.
Well, let's,
If he doesn't want to come back, then our only obligation at that point is to vote.
Right.
If a member feels like they still don't have enough information to inform a vote, and the three members at the other end of the table, for instance, want to abstain, then we don't have enough I don't think we have enough members to vote, unless then he's stuck with the three remaining members voting unanimously in favor, which your odds go down greatly at that point in time.
let's go around the room. Do you feel you have enough information to vote tonight?
I do.
Kathy, do you feel you have enough
I do.
information to
I
vote?
do.
John?
No, I don't.
Bob?
I do.
Eric?
I do.
I do.
The question is, what additional information would you need then for the person abstaining?
Two things. One, immediate abutters. Immediate abutters is defined in 40A, and that's a butter to the left, to the right, behind you, and in front of you across the street within 300 feet. So you're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You need 6 people. And the only other thing is, you can determine that, what other alternatives do you have if you wanna put on this addition? To me, 6332 is a clear option, because we're really taking it from 638.1 and moving it back to a 6332, because we're finding that's you're not going to include that structure in the house, so you're removing it. But 6332 is really is allowing for that extension to be the what is it, 12.6 feet off the lot line. So, I mean, the two things that I would wanna see is alternatives for you, if you find out that you have a problem with the abutters, and two, something from the immediate abutters.
I don't think personally that the bylaws require you
No,
to
you don't-
get
it doesn't.
input from abutters at all.
No, it
So
doesn't.
it's a board decision on whether there is a substantial detriment or not to the neighborhood, period. I don't think we need to poll abutters. Obviously, if abutters were concerned
They should have been
enough,
here,
they would be here tonight.
should be here, yep.
And in some respects, the substantially more detrimental analysis in that instance where there aren't any neighbors who feel that it's, abutters that feel that it's substantially more detrimental, is included in our decision-making authority under 6.3.2. So, all right,
Anyway,
Mr. Chairman,
Here's
what would you
I
like to
think.
do?
Okay. I feel that there are 5 people here who feel they have sufficient information on which to cast a vote tonight, okay? Now, if you want to officially abstain from,
No, I'm gonna have to vote, and the reason I have to vote is because if I abstain, there's a question of the 90-day aspect of it down the road, which means it,
Potentially, you know,
which is,
I don't know that you can make that
No, no.
determination based
no,
on
I'm looking at the,
the 90-day.
I'm looking at the options, in which case it would throw it back to courts. So if the court gets involved, the applicant would be looking down the road for 2 years anyways.
yeah.
So, I mean, I can't do that. So I'm gonna have to vote one way or the other. If I vote negatively, and it doesn't pass, that means the applicant can come back later, after it's been posted, checked in, decision written and posted, and come back later. If I vote affirmatively, and there's, potential that it's gonna go through, so. So I'm
are we
gonna-
ready to vote? Yes.
So, two things. Well, first of all, if the impact, right, between what the proposed addition is today versus what it would be if I were to be conforming, right? I want to emphasize this because it's only 2.3 feet that we're talking about here. It's not, I'm not like 4 feet from the border and moving that back 10 or 12 feet to gain this 15 feet. It's only 2.5 feet. And so keep that in mind as you vote. The other thing is like, this is of course, with money, you could do everything you wanted. This is a fair solution for our needs. I don't think that there would be others without touching the existing house significantly, and that's a road that we wouldn't go. So, but it's the first point that is more interesting to me because you're deciding on 2.3 feet of distance. So please keep that.
I think what this gentleman is saying, he's concerned about the height of the,
Agreed, but if I build if I build 2.3 feet away from the property, then I can keep the existing height.
Exactly. You could move that 2.4 feet
Yes,
and he could
And
build
keep-
it 34 feet high,
right.
and he would meet the
This is
zoning
what we're talking
criteria.
about. This is it, right here.
But this
Okay.
is what you're proposing, this is what we're voting on.
But that's,
Yeah.
my point is like, how can it be I mean, you guys are free to decide, but we're talking about 2.3 feet. We are not talking about 7 or 8 feet, which would be as much more significant like move. We're talking about this much. You're basically, particularly you, Mr. Redford,
Yes.
you're telling me like, this is a significantly detrimental, and this one is not.
Right.
That's fine.
Yes.
I understand that. So, but just keep that in mind as you go, that's all.
Taking your argument and turning it around, if, just for the sake of argument, by your logic, if it's only a reduction of 2.3 feet, does it run that much of a significant hardship for you to reduce your setback by 2.3 feet in order to not have to come back and have us vote on it? That, you don't have to answer that question, but I want to also amplify what we're saying by we're constrained by what the zoning bylaw setback is. If you were 6 inches away, it really is not that much more significant to what we're trying to decide here, because the setback requirement is 15 feet, and you don't meet it, so we have to decide on it. That's what the bylaw says, that's what the black and white says. The substantially more detrimental analysis is still in black and white, but it requires some objective and subjective analysis, which we're making right now. And so, I think, in the interest of making sure that you have full and fair notice, if your desire is for the board to vote tonight, I think we're prepared to vote on your application as it stands right now, and then you live with the result of that, favorable or un. If after hearing what the board has said in terms of a suggestion to you, if you want to take that into consideration and have us hold our vote, that is also within your right to do. But if you'd rather get a decision tonight, we're prepared to give you a decision tonight, I believe, if I understand the chair's
Correct.
suggestion. All right, so you've got a full and fair disclosure. Would you like us to vote?
So in the case, I would ask you not to go out. So what is it that I should bring back? Because it seems like you've asked for a couple of things, but then it seems like I may not have to, or it may not be relevant if I bring a butters comments on this.
I'll defer to the chair on that. I feel like I'm speaking out of turn here.
Does not appear to be an issue anymore. I mean, if there was objection from abutters, the serious objection of any kind, they'd be here.
I think the requirements that were
So the
suggested
issue is,
were in the event that certain members were uncomfortable casting a vote without that information. I think we've indicated that we're all comfortable, all voting members are comfortable voting without that additional information right now. So if you'd like us to vote, we're ready to vote on your application, given the application that you've made and understanding that you accept the vote, or the consequences to you are, that we vote for your application or against it, that it passes or it doesn't. And if that is a concern to you, that if you think there is something that you can do to ensure that you have better odds, or you think you would get better odds by doing something different from us taking a vote tonight, that is also your option. But if you'd like us to vote, we're ready to vote with the information that you've given us. I know it sounds like a tough decision for you.
I would like you guys to vote.
Okay.
I
All right.
yeah.
I don't wanna delay it any further.
If it's turned down, you're faced with going back and looking at how you've changed your plan
I wouldn't be back.
to be more compliant, okay? So, all right, then that means the voting members will be everyone except Eric over here, okay? So, any further discussion before I ask for a motion?
I'll make a
think-
motion.
Okay, David.
I think that, make the motion first.
Okay, David.
All right, I move that the board approve the petition of Mr. Polverari, who, to grant a special permit under section 633 and 638, and I would also add probably 6332, just to be safe, of the zoning bylaws in order to remove the existing non-conforming 13 by 14 one-story sun porch, and to permit him to construct a new proposed 14 by 29 two-story structure, which at its non-conforming point is located 12.6 feet from the property line on the property located at 47 Summer Ave in Reading, consistent with the certified plot plan stamped by John Sullivan, John D. Sullivan III of 22 Mount Vernon Road, Boxford, and dated Boxford, Mass., and dated April 25th, 2014, as well as the relying upon the elevation drawings, sheets 1 through 8 dated April 25th, 2014, drawn by KDK Design of Wilmington, Mass. And imposing upon that special permit the usual conditions. The petitioner shall submit to the building inspector a certified plot plan of the proposed construction and proposed foundation plans prior to the issuance of a foundation permit for the work. The petitioner's final construction plans for the new structure shall be submitted to the building inspector along with the as-built foundation plans prior to the issuance of a building permit, and the petitioner shall submit as-built plans to the building inspector showing the completed construction immediately after the work is completed and prior to the issuance of an occupancy permit. Anything I want to add to that,
I think you
other
got
than
it
the
all.
conditions in reference to the drawings?
I don't know of anything else.
Could you repeat that one more?
I think you got it all.
You did.
So moved.
Second?
Second? I'll second.
Bob? Okay. Again, the voting members will be everyone at the table except Mr. Hagstrom. All in favor? All opposed? It passes. 4-1-0. Stand by and I'll stamp the drawings for you, okay? If I can find them.
The fact that, people did not come out, made the determination a little bit more definitive in my mind.
But I think that's gonna be pretty consistent with most of, and has been pretty consistent with most of these applications.
I think people must realize out there, I mean, if you want to come out on a Thursday evening,
Phone
sit
here.
and
Let's see if I got them all.
do this, but on the other side of it, if they think if it's important to them, they should be coming out.
Well, with any luck and a little bit of work, we may not need to undertake these types of considerations in the future.
Well, we'll see.
And determinations will be made by daytime government. Possibly. Thank you for your patience, sir.
Yeah,
We
thank
We
you.
wanted to get it right. And we think we did.
And I appreciate all of it. But I do wanna say the neighbors did came, they did come to us to actually offer support. They would have come here to support me. And I said, well, hopefully I don't need anybody, but
And we're certainly thankful and hopeful for your sake that you're correct and they do support it. You gotta live next to them.
yeah,
Here you are, sir.
thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you.
Good luck.
Okay.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Okay. We have somewhere. Other business. Number 1, board reorganization. Comes a time that we need to elect a new chair and a new vice chair for the coming 2 years. So,
It's a 1 year,
is it 1 year?
it's a 1 year and a.
Or renew, re-electable?
You can
Yeah,
renew it, yeah.
1 year
once,
re-electable. Up to 2 years.
Yeah, right.
Up to 2 years, okay. I don't know whether we wanna, see if there's any volunteers, do we have to draft somebody, or, someone make a recommendation? I'd be glad to make one.
Well, Bob is, vice chair now.
I would vote to have Bob step up and be chair, if he's willing.
No, I've done it before, I'll be happy to do it. Yeah.
And then we need to find ourselves a vice chair,
Well, we need to take one at a time.
okay? Do I entertain
Take
a
a vote.
motion to
Motion.
accept, you wanna make a motion?
Motion to, if he will accept the position, to, recommend that, Bob become the chair for the 2014-2015, fiscal year.
I guess we can ask every board member to vote on this, can we not?
Yes. Have
All in
passed.
favor? 500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
600.
I'll approve it, sure. Come on, even the
600.
president gets to vote for himself on election day.
Why not? Okay,
That's true.
We need a vice chair also.
we need a vice chair.
And I can think of somebody, I mean, I shouldn't, I've already recommended one for, well, I made the motion, I would make a motion. I would recommend that, David, be considered, if he will accept it, for vice chair. Since he's been doing so much work and he's involved, with the Zach.
plate, yeah.
I would support that.
I
I'll
would
be
support that
Bob
too.
vice chair.
Somebody like, who
The
you
board
made that
sees
motion?
fit.
No, I can't, I
You
already,
can't, you
I
already made
voted,
one.
I made one.
All right, would Eric
Somebody
or
else.
Kathy like to make that motion? That
For David to become the vice chair, for is it 2004?
For one,
Okay, for 1 year.
renewable for
2014,
nothing, yeah, whatever.
2015.
Yeah.
Okay.
All in favor?
Do you get a second?
I second that.
Oh.
He
Okay,
said
second. Mm-hmm.
600. Good.
All right, we have to go back just for a second. Who seconded Robert?
John.
John did.
John.
No, no, on,
Who made the
who,
motion?
who seconded Robert's
Kevin.
Oh,
vote on chairman? Who made the motion that Bob be chairman?
John
I
made the
mo-
motion.
I motioned,
Who seconded?
and I think Cy
Cy
seconded.
Cy
Cy
seconded.
seconded, I think.
Okay, and Kathleen made the motion and.
Mm-hmm.
I did.
And then John
I'm sorry.
seconded me as vice chair.
John the Kingmaker over there.
And before we move on to that business maintenance there that's coming next,
Yes?
we should say something about John Miles. This is his last night.
Yeah, it's too
Aw.
bad he's not here, because
Yeah.
this is his last night.
And,
Yeah.
What a shame he couldn't make it.
and we don't have anybody
No volunteers
to
yet?
volunteer to come on board.
Well, I think it's worthwhile to publicly acknowledge while we're still in session that,
John has
as
been-
chair and as speaking for all of the board members, we appreciate the service he's put on this board for all the years he's been here, which is quite a few. And we wish him well.
Yeah.
We wish him well.
Second.
I think while we're at it, we also ought to thank Cy for his chairmanship over the last 2 years
Absolutely.
of the board,
Absolutely.
bringing us to where we are today.
One of the things, and I don't know whether it's worth bringing up at this thing or not, but, John has talked about leaving the board for quite some time. But we're really, policy says we're not allowed to solicit and seek new members until he officially leaves the board.
Well, you can now.
Huh?
Well, you can now because he did not
I know,
respond to
but
the.
let's assume that someone's gonna leave the board, I'm just opening up an issue, and they write a letter of resignation saying, I'm gonna resign from the board effective December 20th, 2014. That's not, my understanding is that's not sufficient to begin a search.
This is a discussion
Hmm?
we want to take up with,
Selectmen.
I know, but
yeah.
where it's so hard to get these people, and it's just a discussion point, okay? I mean, we probably ought to take it up.
They interviewed applicants for other positions and they tried to turn a few our way and
Okay.
wasn't any
All right.
interest.
Right.
All right. One other thing on here is someone wrote in, discuss findings, which
That was
we
me.
all sit here and say, you want to discuss findings? And if you want us to, tell us what you want us to discuss.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that we're following the right procedure
Okay.
on findings. So let me give my understanding and then you can all pick on me from there. All right, so my understanding is somebody comes in and asks for a finding on a previous permit that they have, variance or a permit. So they come in and ask, is this a major or a minor modification? You hear what they have to say, you make a vote, and then you write up a finding.
Right.
When I receive that finding, what I should do is pass that in to the town clerk to be stamped in and then added to the original file.
Yeah,
Bless you.
yeah,
So that sounds the proper procedure to you all.
sounds proper procedure to me.
Okay, John's shaking his head. He knows these things. Okay,
No, I think that that's appropriate.
What's the alternative?
confusion. Plain and
Has
simple.
somebody suggested to you that that's not the proper procedure?
Well, there was a discussion, and we just wanted to make sure that this was.
Based on government, people in your office have made that, have
I
have
can't
that?
even remember how it started, to
All
tell
right.
you the
I-
truth. But
I'm
mainly
just-
it was me. I just wanted to make sure that, that's what we were supposed to do. And it makes sense to me, it's very logical, and that's what we should be doing.
Yeah.
I'm glad you all
I
agree.
think that makes logical sense.
Well, it's
Sure
business
does.
brought before the board,
It's,
whether it's a formal hearing or not, it's a
It's
decision
still
that
something
is,
that's happened.
it is taken a vote on.
Yep.
So if the vote is taken, you have to record it someplace.
Yeah.
It definitely has to be in the minutes, which you need to put in, but it also has to, I believe,
It has to end up in that original folder.
yes.
Yeah.
I never
That
thought
way-
it, I never thought it to be an issue.
I never,
It's
I always
related
thought
to
that's
that.
what ended
Well,
up.
That's the
well,
way it
I never did either. Then I
So-
just said, well, gee, maybe I started second guessing myself.
Okay.
I said,
Related
you
to
know,
the
let me
original
just
case number.
Make
So
sure.
It's related to the original
Right.
case number, so
Yeah.
it should,
Yeah, so,
I
we're
would
doing it right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
go back to
I
that
wasn't
original
looking for
case
that
number.
as much as just to make sure that
Okay.
we're all in the same
And
boat.
so, before we adjourn,
There,
go
there,
ahead.
there are other ideas of the definition of findings too. The board, in essence, could make a finding in a particular case that, a decision is not necessary or may make
Which
the
we've done
decision-
before, which
yeah.
we've done before, and that.
Or, and it goes, because it's a hearing before it, you have to have a resolution,
Right.
it has to be recorded someplace.
Yeah.
But you also make findings about, a case that's come in brand new.
Yes.
It comes in, the board makes findings on, usually it's on special permits, not really related to, variances, but the board makes a finding on what can and can't be addressed by the board. Technically, we kind of made a finding tonight in this last case, and the finding basically was that we could consider that 12 point, whatever, the setback in the corner of the enclosed
12.6.
12.6, as being relevant to this particular case, and we would say, even though that's gonna be torn down, that we're gonna accept that as a determination point from which the individual could go back to the 29 feet. That's a finding. We didn't express it as a finding, but it's still a finding.
Well, in the situation where we would find at, when somebody comes in to ask us for if it's a major or minor modification, if we made a determination that it was a major modification, they'd have to go back and republish and
Yeah, it would
And
come back as a whole new case.
come back as a whole new case, so that would be related to a new case number from a
Mhm.
filing perspective. Whereas finding a minor modification would have to be associated with the old
With the
case
original.
number,
Right.
since we're not
Mhm.
creating a new one. So I would argue even further that a minor modification should be filed with the original decision.
Mhm. Yep. Okay, I just wanted to just talk about it a little bit.
Okay, one last thing.
Thank
You're
you.
gonna write up Kathy 1409,
Mhm.
Eric 1410, and David 1411. And before we adjourn, I'll just say congratulations to Bob and to David for being elected to your new positions for the coming year. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second?
All in favor? Second is Kathy.
John?
All in favor? 600. Done.
Okay.
Okay.
So our next meeting is the 10th.